My guest tonight, Pamela K. Kinney, is going to be talking about werewolves, dogmen, and other cryptids. We'll be right back. Grab your popcorn and snacks. Find a comfy spot, take a seat or lie down, and let me transport you to a place of fantasy, ghost stories, ancient legends, odd creatures, alien encounters, and other magical topics. You may even decide to join the conversation. From faraway lands to your own backyard, with a small dash of pixie dust, turn out the lights and open your minds. The journey is about to begin. Hey everybody, happy Friday. How's everybody doing? We finally got a long weekend. I'm going to be doing some fun stuff. I don't know about you, but boy, I have big plans this weekend. We'll see how that plays out. Murphy's Law, right? My name is Charlotte. I'm going to be your host for the next hour. I'm also the owner of the California Haunts Paranormal Investigation Team based out of Sacramento, California. We are 45 strong up and down the state, which means if you have or you think you have a paranormal need, we can get to you. It may take us a couple days. California is this huge state. You know, I know a lot of people think California, Beach Boys songs, right? Surfer girls and all that good stuff. It's kind of like Hawaii, right? Lots of beaches. Well, we do have beaches, but we also have a lot of areas that have farmland and have deserts and mountains. So, like I said, it's a huge state, and it may take us a couple days to get to you. And then, if it does happen that you're in an area where it'll take us a couple days, we do have psychics and mediums on staff who can call you. And if what's going on in your home or a business or whatever is paranormal, they can calm things down until we can get out there. So if you want to find us, just Google us, and you can find us anywhere. California Haunts Radio, California Haunts. We're everywhere. Every kind of social media. That being said, if you are watching from Facebook tonight, and a lot of you are, and you like what you hear, please be sure to hit that follow button. Always looking for followers, we are. Also, during the show, show me some love, to go ahead and chat in the chat room. Give me some thumbs up, some hearts. I still can't get the right notion on that one. Just smiley faces, whatever. Just show me some love and comment, because what that does is it puts us higher. It gets the attention of Facebook to begin with. And so it puts us higher in their FYP, which distributes us out to more people. Same thing with YouTube. Check out our YouTube channel. There's over 900 videos sitting over there. They're all of the show. I like to do different topics. I'm a journalist. That's what I do for my real job. I'm a journalist, and I like to do different topics, not just ghostly stuff and cryptids and stuff. Just a good example was yesterday. I was talking with Erica Cyrano about plastics and how they're harming us and the environment. So I like to do things like that. So check it out. You can peruse. I'm starting to put everything in files under topics, because it is, when you get on there, even I get a headache when I look and see all those videos and try to figure out what the hell's on there. So if you like Medium Nancy Matz, she's got her own file. If you're into cryptids, there's a file for that. So you can go down through those files. And that being said, really quick, Medium Nancy Matz will be back with us on her usual day on next Friday. She had a night off tonight, so that's why we had her on Monday. So I'll be glad. So that's what's going on with her. Don't panic. She's not ill or anything. She just has a night off. All right. Same thing for YouTube. If you like what you see in here and you haven't done so already, please hit that subscribe button. It doesn't cost anything. I'm really active in the YouTube community, so I'll be putting messages and stuff over there about future shows and all that good stuff. Also, thumbs up, smiley faces, that kind of thing. Again, because it works the same way as Facebook does. The more you do that, the more you comment in the chat room, the higher they put us out on their computer FYPs to get us distributed to more people. And if you're sitting at home tonight, and most of you are at dinner time, and some of you guys on the East Coast might just be getting home and kind of settling in for the night in front of the fire with your slippers on or whatever. If there's anybody else in the house that you think might be interested in this show, if you like it, just take a cut. Come on in. There's this really cool little show out there. Okay, that being said, we're going to talk about one of my favorite topics tonight, and that's cryptids, especially the Dogmen. The Dogmen fascinate me because I've heard a lot of stories. There's a lot of Native American areas out here in California, and you can talk to, a lot of them a lot of the people there, and they'll tell you about the dogmen that they've seen in their area. Right? I live right now. I live in Northern California, but I'm not quite up the hill by Mount Shasta area. It's about 4 hours away. But I used to live near Mount Shasta, and I also used to live near Happy Camp, which is up there. And some of you guys that are into Sasquatch will know what Happy Camp is. Happy Camp is almost the epicenter for Northern California Sasquatch sightings. And I used to love to go there because all the Sasquatch researchers were up there, and there was one cafe in the whole town. So if you got there just at the right time, when they would be coming in from the field, you could hear all their stories and their experiences about their investigations. Anyway, we're going to be talking dogmen tonight. We're going to be talking werewolves tonight, and we're going to be talking other stuff tonight. Shapeshifters. Love the idea of shapeshifters. So without further ado, let me bring in my guest, Pamela K. Kinney.
Thanks for having me today.
I am so excited.
Yeah, I'm really excited too.
How does
one your little Google behind you?
Oh yeah. He likes to hang out. He dresses up for the holidays too. He's a brat though. Objects move, you know how it is.
Yeah.
So tell me about you, please.
Tell me about me. Well, I write, of course, normally science fiction, fantasy, and horror. Just actually had last week another anthology release, which had a poem of mine. It's a very Lovecraftian anthology, The Terror at Miskatonic Falls. And that actually it was originally supposed to come out in 2012, and then the publisher closed. And it took quite a few years for the publisher to try to find another publisher that he liked, the editor, and ended up he worked for Cemetery Dance. So that's how come it came out, Cemetery Dance. So yeah, it looks good. I got a copy, and it literally is awfully big for anybody that's interested in knowing. I didn't think it was going to be this tall. And
wow!
Obviously, I picked up something.
That's like a dictionary.
Pretty tall, as you can see.
That looks like a dictionary. That's awesome.
Yeah. So, well, they got in artwork in it to match all the stuff. So, yeah, it's pretty well fast selling for them. But besides that, I wrote about ghost books for Virginia. My editor at the time was part of Mid-Atlantic Horror Officials, and she got a job there with the ghost book division because they didn't know what to do. And she asked if any of us wanted to write real ghost stories, not the fake ones. And I kind of knew stories growing up in California, plus having experiences growing up with my mother, same thing. My father haunting the house when he died after 3 days after he died, lots of different things. So I knew some stories about here. And I sent us a book proposal, and that started Haunted Richmond, Virginia, and then on there, the next quite a few, 5 of them. And then I had a chance in 2020. I thought, I like werewolves anyway, writing them, like to watch the movies, the scary stuff. And I thought, well, I see people writing different things. I know they aren't always knowing what they're putting down about them. So I went ahead and ordered a lot of books. That start because you can't go anywhere in 2020. So that all came from Amazon or Barnes and Noble, directly to my house, and looking online, and started finding things and started writing this book. And I ended up fixing it and putting it in the way I want. Because when I do nonfiction over fiction is straight through. Nonfiction, I can do them in pieces, and then I have to figure out where I want them to be. And I ended up, I asked my editor for this book at the time, Small Press in Norfolk, Virginia, is she wanted to try take it on. I know she did a lot of fiction. I had fiction for her, but that was a little different than nonfiction. Before I even tried to approach my old publisher, Schiffer, and she took it, and it's her best-selling book.
Wow!
For 2 years, it was at the top-selling 100, at least on Amazon. You can tell. But it's everywhere. It's Barnes and Noble. It can be in the bookstores, everything like that. So, yeah, people are interested in the werewolves and the shapeshifters. I mean, go figure. It's not just writers, but readers.
Why do you think people have an interest in it?
Well, there's something about something, I guess, changes shape that had to been, if you believe it's human at one point.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's legends for how long they go way back. I mean, King Lycaon and the Greek myths was cursed by Zeus because he had fed him a child he had killed and cooked.
Mm-hmm.
And so Zeus found out and cursed him to become a monster, which is a werewolf, first werewolf. So it goes way back to that, and probably even farther back if we think about it, to our prehistoric times. Who knows what goes back? I mean, the Native Americans here and all over believe in different things. We were no better. It's in Europe. It's everywhere. So I guess it's just a fascination with the wolf, not only as a scary thing, but that was actually probably our first animal. It came into us, and now we know no, thanks to scientists, what I always thought and believed, dogs are wolves. They just came from two different wolves,
Right.
Species and prehistory. So yeah, there's just something about it's our best friend, but it's also something scary too. So
well, you know what I find interesting, like you say, scary. Like with my dogs, sweet as can be, you know, my medium-sized dog. But one thing, when she bares her teeth and you see those canines, that's scary. Because that dog, that can do a lot of damage, even though it's a family pet, you know. So yeah, I agree with you. I think they're a branch off of the wolves. I do agree with you. So when you started, like you say, you did all this research during during COVID lockdown. Did you find out anything that you didn't know? Because I mean, you got all these books laying in front of you. Was there stuff that stood out to you about these stories that you had no clue about?
like I grew up, I have Sioux blood in me, so I knew about the buffalo calf, white buffalo calf woman, things like that. I knew about skinwalkers because I did a blog a long time ago. I used to have a blog and I looked up on them. So I kind of knew about skinwalkers, but I didn't know about the owl witches, though I kind of might have, because there've been a couple of things on those TV channels. They usually show something about people were had bothered. It was Mexican people by a woman they thought was an owl witch. So it was probably prevalent there, but especially the Kushtaka, the ottermen. That was interesting. I don't know why, you only see what was one thing on one of the travel channel that shows about a Kushtaka, but they don't ever show. But it's a giant 8-foot, 9-foot otterman. I mean, otters are cute. And to me, that's actually more scary because they're cute little cuddly things. I can't see a giant land otter walking out of the forest that's 9 foot tall. I think that would scare me.
I've never heard of the otterman.
No, there's an indigenous tribe up there that believes in them, and they actually use them as their boogeymen to keep young men and boys out of the woods. If they're being called, not to answer that call, to come back home, because it will get them, keep them, and they end up turning into one.
Wow. And that was going to be my next question, because we hear about the dogmen. Everybody knows pretty much what a dogman looks like at this point, or shapeshift, or something along that line. But is there anything, like you just talked about the otterman? Is there anything else out there that people should be aware of that they say exists?
Well, the Wendigo. I mean, it's in here. It changes your shape. Even though we might think that at some point someone's starving, it had to do with starving, and that went back to Native Americans. But it supposedly changes people, and that's why I said shape-shifting isn't always straightforward. It isn't like, okay, the moon, which is probably not the truth about werewolves, full moon, but there's that, or someone's cursed, or someone's a witch, so they can change shapes like the skinwalkers and the owl witches. But the Wendigo, it's a spirit that gets in you and changes the person until they become looking like a real Wendigo, with the horns, the whole thing you see.
Are there any areas in the U.S. that have more sightings of these things than others?
Not really, at least not with the dogmen. There seems to be all over. I know it starts with Beasts of Brave Road. I know it started with the Michigan Dogmen, but it was older than the Michigan Dogmen stories, even in Michigan, and it's been older than that, and it's actually all over the world. People have seen things, so you hear that stuff. I So and werewolf stories have gone
Mhm.
back for a long, long time. Germany was very prevalent with it. I know a bookseller and Barnes and Noble in Fredericksburg, Virginia, and she told me a story because she bought my book and she was excited.
Mhm.
When I guess her family lived out there. I guess they were maybe the husband or somebody was stationed, and they had a house. And she got up one night and she heard howling in the forest was right by them. I don't know if it was the Black Forest, one of the big forests out there. And she heard it, and the neighbor came out, and she says, "What the heck is that? It sounds like a wolf, but there's no wolves in Germany anymore." And the woman says, "Just get in the house." She goes, "What do you mean?" "Just get in the house, lock your door, and don't come out till morning. Don't even worry about it. Just get in the house, and I'm going in." And she said the next day it was gone. Well, they did not live far from this famous town that has a statue of a famous werewolf. So
Wow.
a story about it. So that to this day, she really believed that she heard a wolf, not just a dog, but a wild, almost like a very deep howl. And the neighbor knew it's like act like she knew what it was. Just get in the house,
Mhm.
just lock your door, don't worry about it. Like,
When we think about werewolves, we think, back to those creature feature movies, right? With Lon Chaney, the whole silver bullet thing and all that. How much of that you think is based on facts on these stories, or do you think it's old fantasy, Hollywood fantasy?
some of it is to do with. There's several ways to become a werewolf. Actually,
Mhm.
I had to almost go in my book to tell you all of them. The full moon isn't really true. The only thing I think, if you use it in one thing context of getting a wolf fur belt and put it
Right.
around them, they're naked, and they have to do a chant, and it has to be during the full moon, and then they can change, but not after that.
Hmm.
The belt is the changing. There's also been a story about where some people walked and they came into this place and found this fur skins, and these uh, people had used it to become wolves. In Germany, there's a belief that this story about this baroness that had drank from some water from the spring, hard spring, and well, she became a werewolf. But the husband didn't know that. And he came home one night and was attacked by a wolf. So he chopped it at it with his sword, chopped the paw off. Well, after the thing ran away, the paw turned into a hand, a woman's hand. And so he went home, he had wrapped it up, puzzled about this, and walks in and finds his wife in bed, hurting, and she's got her hand all wrapped up. She was
Wow.
a werewolf because of the spring. In fact, Hitler supposedly believed this story, took a lot of his Gestapo and had them drink from that. And that's why he called them his little werewolves.
Hmm. That's very interesting. Really interesting. Have you yourself been out to look for any?
Have I tried to? No, I've done ghost hunting though.
Okay. Okay.
In fact, I have a team, and one of my team is actually a professional videographer, so we're filmed by the real thing. We make videos for the companies, or he has them for selling if he wants to.
Right.
But
Right.
that's what he does for a living in real life. So he doesn't make money off of this like he does with everything else. But
Absolutely.
no, I haven't done it. It'd be interesting. I wouldn't mind seeing one, but you know, I
So,
guess
when you look at things like the Wendigo, if I was driving down a lonely road somewhere by myself at night, which I wouldn't do, where would I be most likely to run into something like a Wendigo?
probably in like Minnesota, that area, because that's the tribe that believes in it. So a lot of winter time, probably that Wisconsin, where there's
Hmm.
really nasty winter like we're hearing now. So,
Hmm. Hmm.
and you probably, I would assume any time of the day, but excuse me while I drink my water.
Absolutely.
I learned that to
Abs-
help.
Absolutely. It's only water, gang.
We have
So,
allergy
absolutely.
problems here. Virginia has warm weather and cold. We don't have any real winter here anymore.
Ah, okay.
So plants are alive, but probably where there's winter is like that. So
Hmm.
and where they would do that, but it's been used in stories like by Stephen King. That was
Hmm.
his one, the the one with the cat came back from the dead, but it was set in Maine. But
Right.
it's actually the Midwest, the Minnesota, that sort of area.
Okay. Okay. Now, when you think about these things and the research you were doing, like you kind of you kind of lead on one that stood out to you, which would be that otter man, which I just think is fascinating. Are there any others that stood out to you that kind of made you go, wow, when you were doing the research?
Let me see if I can get through here. Well, actually, talking about research and about dogmen or werewolves and
Mm-hmm.
Native Americans. I'm going to read this from let's quote the end of my book.
Okay, I want to show them
How
you.
the dog rib nation came to be It's an indigenous myth. An indigenous tribal legend tells of an indigenous person who lived along the Great Bear Lake. He had a female dog who gave birth to 8 puppies. He went out to fish one day and left the puppies tied up in his tent to make sure they wouldn't wander away. Now, when he returned at the end of the day, he heard children laughing and ran inside the tent, but only found the puppies. One day he pretended to leave for a day of fishing, but he hid nearby and waited till he heard the childish laughter and talking, and he busted inside. 8 naked boys and girls were playing. He
Hmm.
saw 8 skins of puppies nearby, and he snatched them up and tossed them into the fire. From that day on, the children remained human and became the ancestors of the dog rib nation. And if you think
Wow.
about that, that reminds me of, it's not here, but if you ever heard of selkies,
Yes.
with the people, the seals, they use the skin, they leave it there.
Yeah.
If a pub wants to get one, they could take the skin away and hide it from them, and that
Mm-hmm.
keeps them human. Well, that's probably the same thing if you think about it.
Wow. What a cool story.
And that's an indigenous myth. There's a lot of cool stories with the indigenous.
Mm-hmm.
The Eskimos have their kind with how the narwhal whale, talking about a skinwalker, somebody becomes a whale.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Seals, at different types, birds. The birds, the ravens especially, were cool. It seems like they can put up their beaks and become human-like, put their beak down. So that was an interesting concept right there
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
in shape-shifting.
How long did it take you to compile all this information?
A long time. I had to read first. I wanted to go through everything before I
Mm-hmm.
did anything. And then the writing was probably easier. I just had to find the books that I thought I remember things with and started writing it. And that was it. That's a little quicker. That's quicker than writing a made up story, believe me. That's a lot simpler because it's already out there at some point. And yeah, it took a time, but maybe about no more than 3-4 months.
Mm-hmm.
Then after that, I started doing the edits. That's what you want to make sure everything looks good.
Mm-hmm.
And once I got the publisher, she did her edits and things, which is, and there it was. And then it came out in 2022. So
Fantastic. So, there's several different types of these creatures. Can you describe them for the audience?
what kind of creature do you want me to describe?
How about the dog man? What's the difference between dog man, wolf man, say Wendigo, and things like that?
The dog man, the wolf man. I'm going to call it the wolf man because let's be
Okay.
honest. They could be, if they are possibly real, they could be our inspiration for werewolves. People think back in the old times, they probably thought was people changing. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's why I said I kept them separate, because there were people mentioning werewolves even here in Virginia, one in the 1800s. But if you think about it, they call them something else now. They look like wolves on their hind legs. A lot of times, though, some people have seen them walking on all fours like a wolf.
Mm-hmm.
So you think you're seeing a very awfully big wolf coming, and then next suddenly it starts standing up. That's when it goes beyond the really bizarre, into it walks on its hind, which is an interesting concept because they say you can't really do that. So if they're able to do that, they're another species, from somewhere else,
Mm-hmm.
because we can't do. We took us time for our legs to develop, for mankind to be able to actually walk on its hind legs. At one point, we were tiny little things.
Right.
In one time, so yeah, and so they look exactly like you would think. some see them as black ones, brown ones, gray ones. So, and it's interesting because there's some people you kind of thinking you believe they're not lying when they said they see these things. So not everybody wants to tell their story, and I don't blame them. I mean, someone might think you're crazy.
Absolutely. Are there any? And then this might be an odd question, but I know you hear stories all the time of people that are really terrified when they see them. Are these things supposed to be super aggressive or no?
A couple of times you hear stories, but most of the times I think they really rather avoid us, or if they're doing anything to scare us, just to scare us away, maybe. Because at some point, nobody seems to have been actually hurt in any of the stories. If they were, somebody would, if they've been attacked, they would have said, and found put in the hospital. But no, not any I come across. So I'm just thinking, like anything else, it's territorial. It's going to carry you off on purpose too, which means it might be intelligent. So, what is it? I don't know. Is it from another dimension? I mean, there's so many possibilities because there's stories that actually some people have actually seen them walk across the road, go into the wood, and disappear at a tree and disappear, just not disappear into the dark at that tree. They could see it. So,
see, you must have been reading my mind because that's what I was just thinking. That was my next question. Where do you think they come from?
Good question. Obviously, if they're, I'm not going to say that real until I see it,
right?
Like anybody else, but if they're real, maybe another dimension. We have enough, and now that we've gotten proof that the military's finally admitting that they've seen UFOs, but they've always had it with Blue Book. I knew that because someone said in a TV show once, well, why did anybody mention Blue? It's called Blue Book. That's what I kept saying. Blue Book. I grew up in that generation. Right. And so now they're looking, actually, they heard the DOD's looking at that. So, yeah, I even saw UFOs as a kid, but my mother, she saw it too. So I know I wasn't crazy. And I know how big it was. So who's to say? Could it be from another world? Could it be even that UFOs? They're all different sounding than what I saw from what I see today. Mine was metal. There was no glowing lights. Could that mean several different types of people visiting us? Could they don't have to come from up there? They could come from another dimension, another world. I don't know. I mean, it's that science believes in stuff like that. So who's to say? I mean, it kind of makes you wonder, right? Because like a friend of mine said, when I talked about what she said about Bigfoot, oh, no, she works in the woods. She says, I've seen dead things. But where do they go? So maybe they don't. They go somewhere else.
The other thought I've always had with this is that, all these these alleged alien abductions, they're forever doing tests on our DNA. Or people think they're doing tests on our DNA. And it always makes me wonder with these things like Bigfoot and the Dogman, and even the Thunderbird. We'll talk, the Thunderbird. That these are experiments that they did on human DNA that had gone wrong, and they couldn't control them aboard the ships because they ended up being wild. So they put them down in the forest, thinking that they would survive out there, which they obviously have. So maybe that's what they are. They're just experiments gone wrong.
All I know is they're intelligent, so I don't know if that's possibly true or not. I mean, you hear stories that maybe our government did, and I don't believe that either. I mean, I do know that there's a reason that only government would hide about the UFO was the military to begin with, but that's the military, and I was in the military, so I know kind of how they think. But I'm probably leaning another dimension. I mean, Stephen King has shown one, and it was at the Mist, where suddenly the military, that's another thing, when the military fooled with something, they kept it open, and that brought the things more over here. Who's to say that there's not a portal? Like, you ghost hunt, okay? I really do believe that there another dimension. Some years ago, I read about a book a couple of years ago. A guy said the same thing, but years and years ago, somebody posted that heaven and hell are the same way as we are right now, except another dimension. So that's why you heard about the veil. Okay.
Mhm.
They don't always sound as loud, even though they try. It sounds like some of them do, some of them don't. I'm thinking sometimes they can come through the veil. I don't think they can. They don't have to stay there if they don't want it. That's
Mhm.
another
Mhm.
whole ball of
Mhm.
wax. But from what I'm learning and talking to some of these things, people, dead people, that I think there's a portal, and sometimes that's why some people see something or catch something at the
Mhm.
right time with their cameras. I mean, you may have to be more psychic than
Mhm.
others, but I think that's what happens. There's always an opening at that point for someone to catch it with their camera or they see something. So I don't. That's why we don't see all the time a lot of dead people walking through here, right?
Mhm. Right, right.
but
Makes a
but
lot of sense.
so I'm thinking this is another world. But they believe in other worlds, other dimensions. This is
Mhm.
science.
Mhm.
Maybe what do we know what other worlds are like?
Mhm.
It's probably not going to be like sliders. There's a bunch of all of us in different worlds. I'm
Mhm.
just thinking different peoples or
Mhm.
different types.
Mhm. Well, when you were talking about the side, the military being involved and whatnot, we have some cryptids up here closer to where I live in Napa, in the wine country, and they're called rebobs. I've never gone up there to look for any of these things, but there's a story of this. I guess they want to say mad scientist, but they think he was paid by the military to do tests on monkeys to make them fly.
Devil monkeys.
I guess so, to make them fly, and people
But what?
claim that at some point either the guy left, the house burned down, or these things escaped because people will be out on this one particular road and they'll see them up in the trees still, and
Well,
they've got red eyes, so you know.
I take some things with a grain of salt. I hate to say this.
Right, right, right. I'm just saying
A flying monkey sounds like something out of Wizard of Oz. I
it
think.
does. It does. You know.
It's like the Bunny Man here. A
Yeah.
lot of people believe in it. There's a forum I found out when I did my ghost book, Haunted Virginia, Legend, Myth, and True Tales. The Bunny Man Bridge. He's a famous man in a white bunny suit with a hatchet. Well, they had a librarian here finally wanted to find out what's the truth behind the Bunny Man. Because I've been to the bridge. I have it in my back of my book.
Mm-hmm.
We've been there and all that stuff. You have to go through it, and it's only room for one vehicle. And it actually ended up and looked like farmland in the back. Come back.
Mm-hmm.
Now the ghost stuff around it, people have done investigations. I can see them get EVPs. It's a whole area. Virginia's anyway full of Civil War and Revolutionary War. Anyway, that's the area up there for both of them. Um, but the Bunny Man, it sounds like somebody should have had a career as a horror writer. And he finally found, after everything he went through to find anybody that matched a killer like that, he found nothing until the 70s and two police reports. One, a guy in a bunny suit, white bunny suit with a hatchet, was threatening this couple. They were sitting at a military guy and his girlfriend talking in the car. And that they called the police after that. And then one where the security guard was in a housing development they were building up there, and suddenly a hatchet was thrown and it hit and right into the one of the parts of the wall of the house.
Yeah.
So, and of course that was the closest to what could be the Bunny Man. Somebody took the idea of that guy in the suit. I don't know, probably some cuckoo guy. And let's write them teenagers, let's tell stories. And because every year they would go up there around Halloween to see if they
Right.
could see the Bunny Man. Because if he catches you, you might be toast. And of course, in the end, the cops are always going up there around Halloween to go stop the kids. But
That's
yeah,
funny.
I say some things I take with a grain of salt. I'm pretty sure that when you hear some of the weirdest things, I mean, the jackalope, be honest, a
Yeah.
bunny with
Right.
horns. It'd be
That's
cute.
pretty funny. Well, I was going through, and then this is kind of unrelated, but I thought it was funny, because we all watch these movies, we all watch these horror movies, and that's why you think of things like like the Bunny Man. And I was going through the drive-through at the pharmacy today, and they have they have the little drawer thing that pops out, with your supplies and stuff. And the first thing I thought of was Hannibal Lecter when they're feeding them, or she's giving him the different stuff to read. The drawer pops open, that pops back. It's got that sound where it pops back in, and that's what I was thinking of the day when I was going through there. So the weirdest thoughts occur. Do you find yourself, and I do this because living on the coast, and one of the roads that you have to take there is very dark, very twisty, in the middle of the woods, that kind of thing. I find myself when I'm driving or I'm a passenger in the vehicle peering out to see if I can see Sasquatch. Maybe he's watching me from the side of the road. After writing this book, do you find yourself, even as a ghost hunter, right? Because you go into different places anyway. But do you find yourself peering out the windows and stuff, thinking, well, maybe tonight's the night. Maybe I'll see one.
I always think that'd be kind of cool. Charles City, Virginia is not far from here, and it's between Williamsburg and us, Hopewell, and Prince George, actually. And it has a lot of wood. So, I mean, I actually investigated at a famous bed and breakfast there, which is haunted, and I actually caught, it's in my one of my books too, other books, 2 ghost dogs. But the whole thing is, I think, and this would be a place Bigfoot would like to be. And when I was going home one night for something else, I thought, I don't know if I want to see Bigfoot standing next to a tree on the Route 5 here. I'm going home. But it's a possible place. Same thing in the mountains. I mean, the Dogmen and that.
Yeah.
So, I'll actually be up there in June, both areas. One weekend, I'll be there for a UFO fest of all things at a vendor. And then the other weekend, I'll be at this 2-day Virginia Bigfoot Con. So it's up in the mountains there too. So the other side. So who knows? Maybe, maybe.
Right.
Or
Right.
If I could convince my husband, he might not want to do that. So.
You never know. When we talk about the Dogmen and these shapeshifters, can you kind of give us some background on what their behavior is? Because a lot of people, when they think of the Dogmen, they think of they're sitting there, and then this Dogman just appears on the side of the road, or maybe their car stalled and it appears on the side of the road. What traits and characteristics do they have? I mean, because you say they're so intelligent. So do they stalk people, or are they calculated or do you think they're calculated in what they do, or how does that work?
Generally, I don't think they probably do anything with us except they want to scare us off. But mostly, I think if someone, I know I've heard stories where people have deer in the back, same thing with Bigfoot, deer in the back of they hunt it and they're taking it back on a truck, and then something gets in the back of their car and the deer is gone. So they're probably wanting to get the deer, food. But I don't think basically they're doing any. I don't believe that they have the power to make us do things. I mean, I've seen some stories I got in here, like guardians of bridges and stuff like that. But I don't think they have any more powers if they're the real deal that we think they do. And I don't think they're people changing shape. Of course, then I might be proven wrong one day, and if I kind of do that, but
right.
But no, I really don't think they're out to get us. I mean, at least you intentionally want to do something, like in a horror movie where you hit the wolf or the werewolf, you hit something like that and it comes after you. Then that might be a different story, or hurt its kid. So, but I think most times, if there was anything wrong, we would have had stories of people being killed, and there's nothing.
Have you had the chance to physically go out and interview people about this?
Not about this, no. I couldn't do that during 2020.
Right.
But I did ask people if they had experiences to contact me, at least on my Facebook, they could contact me that or for my email, but that's as much as I did. A lot of this ended up being what I could find in books and online and stuff. I wish, and I couldn't go to these places too. Usually, like the ghost books, you have to take for Schiffer pictures of the place, and of course, there's no way other than Virginia. That's why there's a timber wolf in it. That's from our zoo here, the Richmond Zoo. He's actually a nice big timber wolf. He has a female mate, and they actually had pups last year. But I can't get to Alaska. Would love to. It's been gorgeous pictures. I mean, but there's a lot of things you can't do other than old pictures that you can use. It's open to the public domain or things like that. it would have been interesting. Then I could been interesting if I could have been able to interview. But by the time it came out, no, there was no way. The pandemic did a lot of things, so it took us a couple of years to be able to safely go back and do whatever we have to do normally in life. So
Do they act similarly? You know, 'cause obviously they're across the United States. There are other places in the world. But in your research, did you find that they acted somewhat alike, or do they act differently for every area they're in? Do you think?
not really. They acted basically the same thing. A lot
Mm-hmm.
of people come across them if they're crossing the road or if they're walking and come across them that way. I mean, in the woods,
Mm-hmm.
but not any more different than anything else. So
I'm
the
looking
only
at the
time
chat
could be
room. Let's see. She says she read that dogmen are supposedly aggressive towards humans.
not the ones there. Yeah, if anything would be aggressive. Think about if you're going to a wild wolf or a dog into
Mm-hmm.
their territory,
Mm-hmm.
what do they do?
Mm-hmm.
If you're going up to them purposely
Right.
or threatening them, maybe, yeah, I would say something aggressive. But again, what I haven't read through, nobody's really died or
Right.
gotten hurt or ended up in a hospital because of being attacked by it
Mm-hmm.
or scratched or anything. We haven't had that. So, maybe in the old legends of werewolves
Mm-hmm.
they were, and I don't know how that was different or not. I know the stories about old European wolves.
Mm-hmm.
There used to be our timber wolves are really actually gentle. I mean, they'll do any aggressive dog, but they're gentle. The biggest wolves in the world is the timber wolf. But in Europe, in the old times, those wolves were not. I gather they were aggressive. They
Mm-hmm.
attacked people. They, of course, probably ate dead bodies thrown up, especially during when they had their version of the pandemic, which was the Black Plague.
Mm-hmm.
So these wolves were a little more aggressive. So a different species. Is that the cause of werewolves? I don't know. But then we have stories of werewolves that walk on legs.
Mm-hmm.
But we also have serial killers that said the devil made them that way. That's
Mm-hmm.
actually one was in Germany.
Mm-hmm.
So, but otherwise, not in modern times that I've seen.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking if we don't do something dumb and
Right.
don't approach anything wild anyway at this point. I wouldn't go
Right.
up to Bigfoot and say, "Here, shake my hand." I mean,
And I agree with you. 'Cause I think you hit the nail on the head when you're talking territory. It's like any other animal. You know, they could have been out there for years, and the more we build out in the forest, the
yeah,
more we build in our domestic areas, the more we're encroaching on their territory. So people are going to see them a lot more. And I would be upset too. I mean, if I had lived there for 70 years or whatever, however they age, or the generation after generation, and then all of a sudden these people are encroaching on my territory, I wouldn't be very happy about it either.
they have all those subdivisions there. That's happening here. They used to believe there were no mountain lions. They were extinct as of 1900s. And I
Mm-hmm.
said, that could not be a possibility. That's in my haunted Virginia. That people have seen it and they say, oh no, they saw bobcats. Well, number one, I grew up in California, by the way, so I know what a mountain lion looks like. And I sure as hell know what a bobcat looks like because I even had a cat that was half bobcat that
Mm-hmm.
was out there. So you can tell the difference. And finally, they got pictures here, and it was a few years later saying, yeah, I think this is a mountain lion. Of course, they're being encroached in all these areas all over the United States. They're moving to here. We have eastern coyotes, but I think we had coyotes more coming out because they're being pushed away from somewhere else too.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like anything else. I mean, right. I mean, Bigfoot. I mean, that's pretty hard. I don't care if the joke of he's the world's greatest hider or something like that.
Right.
It's a lot when you have a lot of places being built up that you never have seen. And a
Mm-hmm.
few years ago, what's the story? A short pump out here. When we came back in '86 from a convention, go home through there, it was nothing. It was farmland and everything. You go by there today in Short Pump, Virginia,
Mm-hmm.
giant a town center, lots of stores, everything, and they're keep building out toward Goochland. So
Mm-hmm.
there is probably not that much. That's why people see bears coming up here. They see
Mm-hmm.
deer going all the way to downtown Richmond and breaking through the glass, or in Chesterfield here. So, yeah, same thing would be with the if Bigfoot and the Dogmen are real.
I can attest to that. I live in a very, I'm going to say suburban area. We're about 6 blocks from the river, maybe 7. And it amazes me that there's coyotes that you see walking through here at night.
Yeah.
It amazes me because there's 3 major intersections. And I mean major intersections with lots of traffic at 24 hours a day, that people aren't seeing these things crossing the streets to get into my subdivision.
They're really smart. Animals are smart. So who's to say that a Bigfoot's not walking through your place? Who's to say that a Wolfman's not walking through your place at night?
Right. What do you think when you look at the movies that have been done, and the books, the different books that have been done, compared to, say, what the reality is for these animals? How much has been embellished? You think everything?
Some things are embellished. The filmmaker friend of mine says the ghost shows that we watch, people think everything is always about demons and everything. They're believing in it.
Yeah.
It's not. It's probably a lot of times boring. He's right. Gets because if they gave everybody, if they did real ghost hunters and there was nothing much going on, people wouldn't be watching the show. It'd be turned off. So it's the same thing with in movies. You got to have something to scare, especially if it's a horror flick. Anyway, you want to make it scary. The werewolves and stuff. There's been some good ones though, and there's been some good books too. Actually, there's a book, Only Good Little Indians or something. Anyway, it came out a couple of years ago. I reviewed it for I Smell Sheep, and it was about Elk Woman. But he's actually Native American in his bloodline, so he knew about from that era with that particular group, which was Blackfeet. So there's a lot of good books out there that have are getting all different types of stuff. But there's some good werewolves books. There's some not so good. I read them. I get one to read, and it's like, oh my gosh, they don't even write good. But there's a lot of them. You have to take a different take anyway. I mean, you're competing with every werewolf story. Nobody's going to buy. A publisher's not going to buy just because it's werewolves. In fact, sometimes some don't even want werewolves anymore, or vampires. So you have to do a different take. But but there's some good ones out there. Dog Soldiers is one. I'll tell you, watch that one. That's a good one.
I was just thinking about the Twilight movies too, and the werewolves in there.
No, that's not.
I'm not even going to go there, but that thought occurred to me.
She made money though, didn't she?
Yeah, she did.
But it's not the best. I couldn't finish the book. I tried the first one. That was it.
Yeah. Let's talk about shapeshifters a little bit. We kind of lit on that earlier. What is a shapeshifter?
When they can change shape. Like I said, it depends. When Wendigo puts in you a spirit, it changes your shape. Eventually you become that. Just not only a cannibal, you become Wendigo. Skinwalkers or witches, some of them are all witches. They use magic to turn into something. Of course, they're not good witches, actually. Skinwalkers, Nahal. In fact, I think in Aztec legends they had it. Goes back that far back. That they can change shape by killing somebody or something like that. They have to do something particularly evil enough to become a skinwalker. And it's not, people have gotten this impression that it's werewolves. In fact, I just saw the new movies that coming out, documentary, they got one about skinwalkers coming out, and he's calling them werewolves. I'm thinking, I want to tell them, don't do that. That's wrong. But they're not. They can change into a wolf, coyote, hawk, eagle, mostly predator type creatures. And they look like they're always wearing skins of animals. So, and supposedly now this is interesting. I did discover this when I did the book. Obviously, I already know all this stuff. I pegged it out, all of them. I knew the skinwalker had the story that if you thought about them or spoke about them, their name, they might come to you and that come after to curse you, okay? But it's not the only one. The Kushtaka has that. Same thing. That's why they don't want to speak about it. They don't want to talk about it or think about it. It'll come after you. There's another one. The Wendigo does that too. And there's another one. I can't remember. It's a real small little story. I didn't find much on it from an Indian tribe. So it's obviously prevalent that if you think about these things or speak about them, they might come to you. And they didn't want them to come to them.
That's incredible. You know, these stories you have it now. I read your book. I love your book. In fact, I'm going to read it a second time. I loved it so much. Lots of information in there. Lots of good stories. What story out of that whole book? And I know we talked about Otter Man. Is there another story that stood out to you?
Oh, gosh. Well, let me see what I got in here. I like the Kushtaka. Don't ask me. I guess because he was so different. Feline shapeshifters. Okay, we do have out here in Virginia and North Carolina. And let me find out where he's at else. It's called the...
By the way, guys, it's really a good book. You guys need to get it. I love the book.
Wampus Kitty. The Wampus Cat. Virginia, West Virginia, North Carolina, Kentucky, and Tennessee. It all starts actually with an Indian's Native American story of the tribe where the woman saw her husband go off with the men, always with the chief and all them. He went off with the chief and the others. And they went around like to do whatever they did. Like men and women had to stay separately, right? Well, she stuck in there and was listening to it one night. They caught her. Well, because of that, she was cursed. I think they had a shaman to become half mountain lion, half woman.
Wow.
The Wampus Cat. And there's stories now that some people believe in the South that there is something when their cattle gets attacked or something that they think it's Wampus Cat doing it. So it's prevalent all the way into the white people society or the black people society, but it started out as Native Americans. So yeah, that's an interesting concept right there, and kind of a scary concept.
It is a scary concept. Is she able to shift her shape, or does she just turn into the cat?
She turned the cat, but she can shape it, and that she's able to shift into that. Whether it's and that can be by a curse. Like I said, things are all, the shapeshifters aren't all black and white. They're either become that way because they're witches and they do something bad, or giant lion otters. If you're caught by them, they only take boys or men, which is interesting, not women. Wendigo, it's one way. Werewolves, supposedly there's so many different ways to do it. That's the difference. So the same thing, curses and things like that. So and here it is. That's one of the stories like that the Wampus Cat. So I take that one with a grain of salt myself, but it's still a good story, and it's got me interested in wanting to do a horror story with it. So
that would be cool. That'd be very cool. You got quite a few books out, huh?
Yeah, the anthologies are coming out like crazy right now. I'm supposed to have later this year a YA dark fantasy called Demon Memories about a demon-possessed girl. And at one point, I'm not going to go in. So it's going to be a series. There's a trilogy. It's set in a mythical town in West Virginia, western part of Virginia. That's not really there, called Moon Ridge. That supposedly witches founded it. So yeah, and so, but I do have anthologies. I had 2 that just came out, and one's coming out April 4th, and that's all women military veterans wrote it. Plus, women military veterans published it. That's a publisher. Edited it. Did the illustrations inside. She actually works for the DoD today, that one inside. And the cover is done by the same thing. So it's all women military. It's a charity one. She did a Kickstarter, got our money. And now that once it comes out regular, it will be sold. Some of that money will go toward the Veterans Foundation for the women military veterans programs. So there's a lot of ghost story, a lot of good, interesting stories and poems in it. I would tell anybody to buy it because it's first of its kind. Nobody's ever done it before. They tried a couple times. She found out, never did it. So she's the first to get one out.
How nice.
It's called The Haunted Zone.
The Haunted. That just sounds so exciting. It's
It
never
is.
boring for me with it. I mean, because I see all the books. It surprised me when I got on there. After I talked to you on the phone, and I was looking at your Dogmen book, but then I saw all these other books, and it's like, wow, that's dedication. Good ideas and dedication.
I like to write, so especially if it's made up stories. I'm playing in my little world. So,
is it hard to get ideas though?
No, not for me. It comes in my head. It's always been like that since I was a kid. But it does help to have the ghost books and like this book here, werewolves, and the other shapeshifter stories to give me ideas. The Bunny Man inspired me to write a horror story. I still haven't got it published yet, but the Bunny Man guy gets possessed by the Bunny Man spirit. Wow. And he goes after, it's to do with Halloween haunts and the whole thing. So
absolutely. This has been fun. This hour blew by. And I thank you for coming on. I was so looking forward to this, and it did not disappoint. I learned so much.
Well, thank you for having me tonight.
Absolutely. We'll have to get you back on.
Sure.
Once one of your other books comes out. We can talk some more to you. I can pick your brain all night. How can people find you?
Well, my website to start with, Pamela K. Kinney. It's PAMELA KKINNEY.com. That's my website. Or I'm on Facebook, both as a Facebook page, author, Pamela K. Kinney /author, or Pamela K. Kinney. They could probably put it in there and search for it. I'm on Instagram. So, things like that. So,
and then you get your books on Amazon or everywhere else too.
They can get on Amazon. Most of them will be. There'll be some that are Amazon only. That's just because that's what the publishers did. Or my one self-published book, How the Vortex Changed My Life. That's on Urban Fantasy and Horror. Right now, I'm going to try and take it down and probably see either my publisher will probably take it or I'll do it myself. Put it through Ingram so I can get it in the bookstores because it's starting to sell. But they can also find a lot of them on Barnes & Noble. Just look, under my name, Books a Million, bookshop.org if they want to look at it. It helps independent bookstores. And if they find if they want one of the books, gets a little ISBN, and they could probably go to their indie bookstores for the ones that are able to get everywhere and just order it through them too. And through the publisher. At least Schiffer has also their own website selling my ghost books. So
cool. Well, once again, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me again.
Have a great weekend.
You too.
Bye-bye. All right, guys, I learned so much. I love talking about that topic. I love talking about cryptids to begin with, and all I can say is, wow, that was great. All right, I'll be back on Sunday at 6 p.m. Pacific. I will be reading from the True Ghost Stories book. Some of those things are spine tingling. Some of those things had me looking over my shoulder last Sunday when I was reading them. Wow. That's all I can say. So if you feel like you want to sit back and cuddle up in front of a fire with some wine in your hand or whatever and hear ghost stories, those are the stories to listen to. Monday, Mary Rodwell is going to be with us. She's going to be talking about alien abductions and children. And that'll be our usual time, 6:30 p.m. Pacific. Well, I hope you guys have a great weekend. I know I will. And I will forward some of Ham's information for you guys to follow up on for her book. And then we're going to call it a day. So here we go. Her website is PamelaKKinney.com, all lowercase. And, of course, she said she is on Facebook. So you can, look up her name there. The book that we were talking about tonight is Werewolves, Dogmen, and Shapeshifters, Stalking North America. And, of course, that's available at Amazon and other booksellers. Okay, if you like the show, share it with 5 people. If you hated the show, share it with 5 of your enemies. Again, we are Equal Opportunity here at California Haunts Radio. We're just trying to get the word out about our little show. So, show us some love. Show us some thumbs up if you like what you heard and saw tonight. I would appreciate it. But I will see you guys Sunday, 6 p.m. Pacific. Have a great weekend.